Hey fellas, it's a beautiful day here in southwestern Illinois. The sun's shining. I got my windows open. Got a nice cool breeze coming through. And it's a good time to put this video out. I had a viewer request for this one, and I'm going to run through all my airbrushes and tell you my likes and dislikes and what I use and what I don't. And I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 airbrushes. I'm not sure. I haven't counted them, but you get to see them all. And I recently had a buddy of mine that's getting back into airbrushing, and he asked for a recommendation. And of course, I recommended the Iwata HP-CS, which is my favorite. And he used it this morning, and for the first time, I guess, and really liked it. So this is just going to be one of those videos, and you know, it's not like an all-encompassing airbrush video. You know, if you've got a $10 airbrush that you like and that works for you, great. If you got a $500 one that you like and works great for you, awesome. These are just the ones that I've had experience with and that I own. So I'll quit jabbing and let's get on with the video. Pew, pew, pew. My pew pews, my voice is going away. All right, we'll start off with number 1, and this was the first airbrush that I ever purchased. It's the one I learned on. It's the one that I use mostly to this day, and it's the Iwata HP-CS. It's got a 0.35 millimeter needle on it, and it is my go-to airbrush. One of the reasons that I like it so much is that it sprays consistent. It never fails. You know, if it's sputtering or doing something it shouldn't be doing, it's probably just because it isn't cleaned out or there's something in there. But this has always worked well for me. It's also very easy to clean. And let me show you what I mean, and you'll see when I show you some of the other airbrushes what differentiates this one. Now, to clean it, for normal cleaning, I usually just take the front off, take the needle out, and then there's this little nozzle. Now, a lot of the other airbrushes, they have a little nozzle, but you have to unscrew it. This you can unscrew with a little tool, but it's typically not necessary. You just stick your little tool in there and twist it off. But you can come in here with one of these proxy brushes you get at the drugstore, clean that out, and then you can also take one of these little tools. If there's some paint stuck in there, you can kind of clean it out that way. And then take your little pipe cleaner and run it through just like that, and it's clean. And for more in-depth cleaning, you can just take all these other inside parts out. It's pretty simple. Once you get used to doing it, you figure it out pretty quickly. But this is my go-to airbrush and the one that I use most often. Let me put this back together and we'll go to my second favorite airbrush. Now, my second favorite airbrush is the Procon Boy PS-770. Now, I typically use this for fine work, and if you've watched some of my other videos, you've seen it. It's from what I understand, they compare it to the Iwata, is it Micron? Custom Micron. This one probably needs a little bit of cleaning and some lube, because it feels like it's stuck a little bit. Yep. But this sprays really fine. It's just a really good airbrush, and it's really easy to control. Now, this one is kind of like the Iwata in that you don't have to unscrew the nozzle to get into the inside parts. The nozzle's all contained in here, and you can take this apart, take the nozzle out, but then you have access to clean it out with your pipe cleaner just by doing that. This is a really good airbrush, and it's probably about half the price of the Iwata Custom Micron. I think I paid like 220 bucks for this. and it is well worth the money, especially if you do fine work. Now it does have one of these little adjusters at the back that allow you to control how far the trigger goes back. I can't pull it back any farther. You can adjust it. I don't typically use that. It's just, you know, every once in a great while I use something like that, but not typically. Another airbrush, one of my favorites, is the Badger Sotar 2020. This is another fine airbrush. I think this is a point, maybe, I'm not sure. It's got a real fine, fine needle on it. I think it might be a 0.18 or something. I'm not really sure, to be quite honest with you. But one thing with Badgers that I don't really care for, in order to, you know, undo the little casing back here, you have to actually pull the needle out first. It's kind of awkward, in my opinion, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal. This is one of those that I typically need a wrench to undo the nozzle. And again, like the Procon Boy, the actual nozzle's inside here, and I think you do need, get that off. Yeah, it probably needs good cleaning. I think you do need a little wrench to take the actual nozzle out, if I remember right. But that's also fairly easy to clean and take care of, and it does spray pretty fine. I really like this airbrush. And it's not very expensive. I think I got this one used for like 60 bucks. I think they normally sell, I'm not sure, around $100 maybe. But if you're looking for a fine airbrush and you don't want to spend $200 and some odd for the Procon Boy, I think this will do a lot of what you need to do if you're wanting to do fine work. All right, now let's go to, this one's another really fine needled airbrush. I've also got a 0.04 millimeter needle with it, but I just haven't used this much, to be quite honest with you, and I think I just need to work on my air pressure to get it to work correctly. I mean, it works fine. It's just I haven't experimented enough with it. This is one of the more expensive brushes that I got. I think it was close to $300, $250 maybe. I'm not sure. It's the Infinity. Shoot, I forgot the name of it. Oh yeah, the Harder and Steenbeck Infinity, duh. But it's kind of like the BMW of airbrushes. Everything's really tight on it, really good craftsmanship, and these Harder and Steenbecks are pretty easy to clean as well, which is a good thing. And this just unscrews, and then you've got your nozzle right here, and then you can take that out, clean your nozzle, and then you've got access to everything. And then the cups on these come off, so you can clean that out, get inside there and clean everything out. And I talk about cleaning a lot just because I like to keep my stuff clean. If you don't have a clean airbrush, you get paint and everything gooped up in there, it's just not going to work properly. So that's kind of why I harp on wanting airbrushes that are easy to clean. But overall, it's a good airbrush. To be honest with you, I don't use it that much. And for, you know, half the price of this one, you can get one that will do the same with the Badger Sotar 2020. And I've also got this Harder and Steenbeck Evolution. This has got a 0.02 millimeter needle in it. And again, I haven't used it much. They each spray just a little bit differently. It seems like this one really shoots out the paint. And I don't know, again, I'm not used to using this one, but again, it's got the same type of nozzle that the Infinity has. Kind of a heavy airbrush too. I think they make a lighter weight aluminum version of this, but this is the full steel or iron or whatever this is, but it's a little heavy. This was, I bought this one and I was pleasantly surprised with. It's a Hansa 281, and Hansa makes a couple different versions. This is one with a 0.02 millimeter needle in it. And what's interesting about this is that it has, instead of pushing down on the trigger, it doesn't push down. You just pull it back and it releases air and paint at the same time. So it's kind of, I guess, I don't know if you would even call this a double action. It's almost kind of like a single action, but you can control how much air and paint come out, but it's all done in one motion instead of pushing down, letting air come out, and then pulling back. It also has the cup that comes off, and I believe this is made by the same company that, I think these are made by Harder and Steenbeck, yep. And again, it has basically the same type. You can pull the guard off, the needle guard. And I haven't got this one out in a while, so I don't know how easy this is going to come off. But it's got the, yeah, that's kind of, there we go. But the nozzle comes out and it just pulls out. Whoa, there it goes. Probably shouldn't do that with my needle still in there. And again, that's pretty easy to clean and take care of. An interesting airbrush, and I haven't used it much lately, but it used to get a lot of work on my bench. I'm all thumbs today. All right, so that's my bottom row. Let's go with the Grex, and this is the TR, TG, I don't know, something. But this is the trigger version of the Grex in the Grex line. What's interesting is they have these different needle guards that are attached with magnets, and you can just pull them in, and you can use this one, or I think this is the fan tip, or you can go with the traditional round one, or none at all. Now I have found that these sometimes tend to fall off, you know, if you're handling them, and you know, it'll sometimes fall off and you'll end up losing it. But I've got like 2 or 3 different size cups. Now this has the 0.05 millimeter needle in it. I do have another needle and nozzle kit with it that's like a 0.3, I think. But this is what I use to spray like a big piece. If you know, because I can fill this paint cup up with a ton of paint, and that's typically what I use this airbrush for. It doesn't get used that often, but if I got a big model, I might break this out and use it. Not the easiest thing to clean. I mean, it's not that difficult, but you know, paint seems to get in and around this little trigger mechanism, and that's kind of a hassle. Now this does have the nozzle that you have to unscrew, and there's a certain little tool that they give you to do that, which is this little like wrench, and it just goes in there and you twist it off. And you got to kind of be careful when you do that, because I mean, you crank too hard on it, you strip the threads out, and then you've got a mess on your hands. This is the Badger Patriot 105. I bought this used. I think I paid like maybe 30, 40 bucks for it. And it's got a 0.05 needle in it. And the only thing I really use this for is spraying at high pressures with like my, what is that? My Badger Primal Res, that heavy duty acrylic primer. Just because this has got a big needle, and it really lets the paint shoot out of there. So it's really good for like thicker paints. What else do I got? Oh, and it doesn't fit in here very well. The Iwata, this is an Iwata Revolution. Now, the only reason I bought this is because it was cheap on eBay, and it's got a .05 needle in it, and I can't tell you the last time I used it. Now, unlike the Eclipse CS, the nozzle is one of those little twist-off dealios. It doesn't come off like the Iwata, the HP-CS, so you have to twist that off with a little tool, and like that. Now, I'm not sure how much this costs new. I would guess it's probably maybe around the $100 range, but you know, if you're going to go that far, I would just get an HP-CS. I really haven't found too many good uses for this, other than if I just get bored and want to spray something big that you know, I don't know. Not sure why I have it really. Here's the Iwata Neo. This is kind of a beginner airbrush, and it's a decent airbrush. What I found is that it doesn't atomize the paint as well, in my opinion. Now, maybe that's just in my head, I don't know, but yeah, I just haven't. It's good for a starter airbrush. It's inexpensive. I think they're like 50 bucks. The cap comes off, and I mean, it's a decent quality airbrush. Now, it says for Iwata. I don't think this is made by Iwata, but I guess Iwata put their name on it for whatever reason. But and this is one of those ones that's difficult to clean because it's got this little, the same thing where the little needle or the nozzle has to be taken off with a little wrench. And from what I understand, these strip really easily, so you kind of got to be careful and don't over tighten them. But you know, if you're looking for an inexpensive, decent airbrush to get started with, this is a pretty good choice in my opinion. And if you break it, let's go get another one, 50 bucks. This is one that I was kind of pleasantly surprised with. It's a Sparmax SP-35, and again, I bought this used. I believe this has got a .035 millimeter needle on it. It does spray pretty well. One downside is it's got the smaller color cup. So you know, if I'm spraying, if I've got a project that requires me to spray, you know, 3 different paints, and I don't want to keep changing, you know, I'll hook 2 or 3 of these up, and this is one that I usually go to for like a third color if I don't want to clean out my airbrushes in between. It does spray pretty well. It doesn't have the removable nozzle. You just have to pull it off. I mean, you just have to pull off with a little wrench. So again, not the easiest thing to clean, but in my experience, this sprays pretty well. And last but not least, I think I paid 60 bucks for that. Last but not least, or last but least, I should say, is this Paasche Raptor. Now, I bought this a while ago, and to be honest with you, I'm not happy with it. When I first got it out and started using it, half the time it wouldn't spray. There was air coming out, but it wasn't spraying, and it wasn't because it was dirty, because, you know, I hadn't used it, and I'd cleaned the crap out of it after I did. But, and then, so I don't know what the deal was with it, but that kind of gave me a bad first impression. When I did get it to spray, it did spray pretty nicely. I could get pretty fine with it. It's got a .02 millimeter needle in it, but it just, I don't know. It's like the workmanship on it is just not really good. The little trigger here had a real bumpy surface, if I remember correctly, and it was actually kind of hurt my dainty little girl fingers to press it down and use it. So I ended up just sanding that smooth. But yeah, the workmanship on it just, I don't know. I won't buy another Paasche airbrush. But so, and it was, I think, I don't know, maybe 100 bucks if I'm not mistaken. But there's a lot better airbrushes in my opinion out there for that price. So that's kind of the rundown on my airbrushes. And you know, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. All right, for my compressors, I've got two. Now, the gray one back here is one that I initially bought, and these are just like cheap Chinese, probably made compressors, but I haven't had any issues with them. Now, I did buy this other one. It was supposed to be quieter, to be honest with you. I like the my older one better, but I figured I'd keep it. It was a backup. But what I like to do is I've got this little manifold on here, and it allows me to have all these air hoses with quick connectors on there, so I can have four separate brushes hooked up with different colors in them. If I'm trying to shade something, I don't have to change them out. I can just hook up my 4 airbrushes with my 4 different colors and do it that way. And then I can also hook up if I need a 5th one, which I never do. But and a lot of times I just use this one when my kids want to come in here and paint. I'll drag this one out and they use my backup. So that's kind of what I've got for my compressor setup. And then I've got this little crappy eBay air booth, and every once in a while I'll turn it on to suck the air out, but I've got a window there and I put a fan in, but it's kind of loud. Takes a little bit to warm up, but it will suck some of the stuff out. Now I don't have the tube sticking out the window, which I probably should, but then again I don't use it that often. So just basically to suck the overspray away from my project that I'm working on. But that's about it for my airbrush stuff, and I'll catch you on the next video. And as you can see here, I'm working on the B25. I just started working on it yesterday, getting some of the big parts glued together, and I will have a video on that, so that will be B25 2.0.